All right, everyone. The legacy media is simping for Ron DeSantis hard, and now they've begun to push poll. They're trying to take a rather demoralized fan base and stymie the hemorrhaging, I think, more than anything else. At this point, Ron DeSantis, who once was the possible heir apparent, really is just the Hail Mary that's waiting for the possibility that Trump gets precluded from running in a plurality of states, and so the GOP brokers their convention and refuses to nominate him, which would cause their candidates and down-ballot candidates to lose massively. It would cause political chaos, and it'd be even more evidence of the uniparty being a thing. Or that he croaks or is incapacitated or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to read you out this particular tweet verbatim. I'm responding to it, link in the description, but I'll read out the tweet I'm responding to. New Iowa poll. Ron DeSantis saw a net 8-point gain out of the Iowa debate and pulled within 3 points of Trump in a head-to-head. The American people liked what they saw from him on Wednesday. Now, that's very impressive. See, there's a number of problems with this particular poll. Sometimes I'm seeing people reporting on it, and they're not mentioning this part of the polling that they're referring to. First, it is explicitly conducted by a DeSantis PAC. So this was a poll that was conducted by a group that wants Ron DeSantis to be the nominee. This is like when Trump looks at internal polling that shows him at 70 points or something like that. It's not accurate. That's why the poll's not aggregated. You're not going to find this on RCP or anything like that. The second problem is that it has a tiny sample size of 400 people. The third is that it technically cherry picks the data further. And this I'll get into some depth with. This is a poll of people who watch the Republican debate. The problem is if you were watching the Republican debate, it was less likely that you were watching the Trump-Tucker Carlson bit, considering the number of people in the United States that were watching that, and in other parts of the world. Like I watched that. I didn't bother watching anything other than debate points, basically. With Trump and Tucker, I watched, most of it. It was more interesting, honestly, because I'm not interested in the also-ran JV team sort of Republicans that generally stand for neoconservatism, because most of them can't win, and most of them would never deserve to be in any public office, let alone the presidency. So that problem is that you're taking a bunch of people. A lot of Trump fans would refuse to watch the GOP debate at all. They were too busy watching Tucker, and then they went to bed. When you conducted the poll, they hadn't had time to maybe watch it the next day because it's a snap poll. So you are effectively shifting the data away from people who would tend to be hardcore Trump supporters, whose minds, trust me, in general, watching the GOP debate did not change at all. Likewise, there are people who hate watch Trump on Tucker. Their minds aren't going to be changed just because Trump is rhetorically better when he's in a one-on-one and not being badgered the whole time. The fact is they're still Team DeSantis or Hutchinson or Scott or something like that. Not many minds got changed by either of these appearances, really, other than Trump managed to completely lay waste to the concept that the GOP debate mattered by outstaging them in a pre-recorded in the same time slot. The next problem is that when you talk about DeSantis being within 3 points of Trump in a head-to-head, there is no head-to-head. You have a packed field with a dozen other candidates in it. You're not going to have a head-to-head, certainly not in Iowa, the very first state. You might have had, maybe Larry Elder drops out, Hutchinson could leave. In fact, I've said for some time, it's likely that before Iowa, a couple of people meander out of the race. People who really thought that they would have a chance, and they never gained any traction. They run out of money. They don't really have much of a choice. Elder's a likely one. Hutchinson is a likely one. Certain other, Tim Scott, certainly he underperformed, and he had to spar mainly with Nikki Haley because they're both from one of the starting states, South Carolina. Haley did better than Tim Scott did. He barely got in a word edgewise. Now, I don't like Nikki Haley. I'm not simping for her because she's a warmonger and a power-mad son of a bitch who would probably start a major war if she were elected. That being said, rhetorically speaking, she was more at the forefront and she was more forceful, and so of the two South Carolinians, she clearly came out on top. So I'd say 2, maybe 3 people leave. Could be less, but you're still going to have about 10 people in the race come Iowa. This also would rely upon the expectation that either those people don't endorse anyone or all of their votes magically go to Ron DeSantis. But there is no head-to-head. If you look at the regular matchup polling, so you're looking at the whole field, Donald Trump still leads by more than 20 points. That's not a change compared to the aggregated poll, unless you're looking at push poll over push poll, and that's the only comparison you make. There hasn't been a statistical change in Trump's support there. And it's a snap poll. Again, you're just trying to take the pulse of a small proportion of the GOP electorate that even watched the debate. Most of the people didn't have the stamina or the time to bother, because they're like, well, Trump's not going to be on the stage. Everything else is basically predictable. Ron DeSantis will probably do a mediocre performance, which he did. He was in the middle of the pack. Christie will come out like a bulldog and attempt to attack everyone else. Vivek Ramaswamy will stick to sloganeering, although he did manage to fend off Christie, which is to his credit. Haley will warmonger, but she'll at least be well-spoken, and so on down the line. And then Asa and some of the others, they literally just don't fucking matter. Mike Pence will have to defend, as usual, the fact that he was Trump's VP, and he got praise from people for, not for certifying the election and shit like that. Mike Pence, overall, again, middle of the pack. Really, you have Ramaswamy doing well, although some people claim, including the DeSantis fans, no, he did a poor job. People were turned off by his fiery rhetoric. Well, again, you're relying on a push poll put out by a DeSantis pack of 400 people to determine that. You don't have any other polling because no other polling has been conducted. Other snap polls, like CNN snap poll, I think, they were favoring DeSantis. Or was that CNN? Can't quite remember. I know that Fox is literally replicating this push poll, and you have to go down several sentences before you can find out that it was actually sponsored by a DeSantis PAC. So it's useless. It means absolutely nothing. This is like a Karl Rove personal poll. It's not going to appear on any aggregate because it's not reliable. The sample size is too fucking small. The sample is skewed. The people conducting the poll have an explicit and self-professed political bias in favor of the candidate that they're simping for, imagining a head-to-head that won't even exist. There's no possibility of a one-on-one race between Trump and DeSantis in Iowa. By the way, even according to that, small sample, skewed sample, DeSantis PAC conducted it, etc., etc., even then, Trump's 3 points ahead in a head-to-head match. So you're saying that DeSantis can almost win if we skew the data really, really hard and squint our eyes really, really closed shut and then mess around with the numbers a little bit and make sure that the crowd we're polling is massively skewed and cherry-picked. DeSantis almost has a chance in this one particular state. That's not strength that leads you to conduct a push poll that's that transparently obvious. That's about all. Peace out.